Courage is built in the grind because it's not forged in moments of applause or recognition, but in those unseen, uncelebrated mornings when you drag yourself out of bed despite the weight of doubt pressing on your chest, when you choose to take one more step even though no one is watching and no one will cheer, when you decide that your future matters enough to keep showing up today regardless of how small or insignificant the progress may seem. Because real strength has little to do with the grand victories that people often glorify and everything to do with the daily act of refusing to quit, with standing back up when you stumble, with whispering to yourself that you will not be defined by exhaustion, failure, or fear, and instead you will be defined by the grit that drives you to keep moving forward. It's in these moments of repetition and persistence that courage is quietly carved into your character, not as a single act of bravery, but as a steady rhythm of resilience, where each day becomes proof that you are stronger than the excuses, stronger than the resistance, stronger than the version of yourself that wants to settle for less. And though the grind feels heavy and thankless at times, it's in that weight that your courage is strengthened. Just like muscles only grow when they are tested against resistance, so too your spirit expands when it is pressed against challenge after challenge, and it's in choosing not to turn away from the discomfort, but to lean into it, that you realize courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to walk with it, to work with it, to move forward even when the outcome is uncertain. Because courage is not about winning or losing, but about staying in the fight. And it's this fight, this daily, ordinary, often unrecognized grind, that makes you unshakable, because by showing up consistently, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted, that you will not abandon your goals when they get hard, that you will not abandon yourself when the journey feels overwhelming, and this self-trust, built one day at a time, is what gives you the strength to face even bigger challenges ahead, reminding you that while courage may look like bold gestures from the outside, it is, in truth, a quiet, steadfast commitment to rise each day and keep moving no matter what. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth, because every meaningful transformation demands that we step into places that stretch us, challenge us, and sometimes even break us open so we can rebuild stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. And the grind, with all its demands and difficulties, is not designed to hand us ease, but to shape us into the version of ourselves that we often dream about, but can only reach through struggle. It's easy to want progress without pain, to crave success without sacrifice, but the truth is that the lessons that define us most deeply rarely come in times of comfort. They come in the late nights when we push through fatigue, in the mornings when we wake up and resist the urge to stay in bed, in the moments when doubt screams louder than belief and we choose to keep going anyway. And it's within that tension, that discomfort, that our character is formed, because growth is not a gentle process. It's a stretching, a tearing, a reshaping of who we are, and that reshaping hurts. But it also reveals our strength in ways we could never have known otherwise. The grind is like a sculptor, chiseling away at our fears, insecurities, and excuses until the version of us that is capable of more begins to emerge. And though it can feel relentless, it is in fact an act of refinement, teaching us patience, discipline, and resilience, all of which cannot be learned in ease. And when we embrace discomfort instead of running from it, we realize it is not a punishment but a teacher, not an obstacle but a pathway, because every challenge carries within it the seed of growth, waiting for us to lean into the hard work long enough for it to bloom. Discomfort humbles us, reminding us that growth is not instant, and it empowers us, showing us that we can endure more than we thought possible, and through that endurance we expand our capacity not just to achieve, but to believe in ourselves in ways that comfort alone could never inspire, because true growth doesn't ask us to remain who we are. It demands that we shed old skins, old patterns, and old fears, and that shedding process is rarely pleasant but always purposeful. So when the grind feels heavy, when discomfort feels overwhelming, we must remember that it's shaping us into the person who can carry the weight of the future we desire. And the person who learns to rise in discomfort is the one who discovers just how much power, resilience, and possibility they were carrying all along. Small choices compound into transformation because every decision we make, no matter how insignificant it may appear in the moment, builds upon the last, creating momentum that shapes not only the direction of our days but the trajectory of our lives, and the decision to get up today, to face the challenges instead of hiding from them, to take one step forward even when it feels like progress is invisible, becomes the seed of change that grows into something far greater than we can see right now. For transformation is not born in sweeping gestures or dramatic moments, but in the quiet consistency of choices that align with who we want to become. And while it is tempting to believe that one choice doesn't matter, the truth is that each small act, choosing to show up, choosing discipline over distraction, choosing to take responsibility instead of making excuses, carries weight, because these choices compound, layering strength upon strength, shaping habits, and building resilience until one day we realize that we are no longer the same person we once were. It is not the giant leaps that carry us to transformation, but the steady rhythm of choosing to rise each time we are called to, and every morning we make the decision to get up. We are investing in a future self who will be grateful for the persistence we practice today. Because momentum is born not out of perfection but out of motion, and once we begin moving, however slowly, we begin to gather power, just like a small stream eventually carves valleys and shapes landscapes through its persistence. So too our small daily choices carve out the contours of our destiny. The transformation we long for is hidden inside those moments where we could give up but don't, where we could choose comfort but instead choose growth, and though those moments may seem small, over time they form the foundation of an unshakable character, teaching us that we do not need to wait for the perfect opportunity to begin. We simply need to start, because every act of showing up today makes tomorrow a little lighter, a little more possible, a little more aligned with the vision we hold. And in that process, we learn that greatness is not the product of rare bursts of inspiration, but the result of ordinary choices stacked day after day, choice after choice, moment after moment, until transformation no longer feels like a distant dream, but a reality we have built brick by brick through the momentum of getting up and moving forward when it would have been easier to stay still. Failure is not the opposite of grinding, it's part of it, because grinding is not a path lined with easy victories or smooth progress, but a road filled with struggle, uncertainty, and lessons that are often painful to learn. And when we experience setbacks, they are not signals telling us to give up, they are reminders that we are in the fight, that we are daring enough to test ourselves against the resistance of life rather than standing safely on the sidelines, because to be in the arena is to risk falling, to risk getting knocked down, to risk the sting of disappointment, and yet that is exactly where growth is born. Failure is the cost of ambition, the inevitable companion of anyone who chooses to chase something bigger than their comfort zone, and the grind demands that we embrace it, not as a final verdict, but as a temporary teacher that reveals what we need to sharpen, where we need to toughen, and how much strength we truly carry within us. For no one who has ever achieved anything meaningful has walked a path free of mistakes, losses, or heartbreaks, and in truth, their failures were the very stones that paved the way to their victories, shaping their character and teaching them lessons success alone could never offer. When we fail, we are confronted with our humanity, with the limits of our current ability, but in that confrontation lies the invitation to grow, because failure shows us not that we are unworthy, but that we are still learning, still stretching, still becoming, and each time we choose to rise after a fall, we reinforce resilience. We strengthen our self-trust, and we remind ourselves that falling is not the end of the story unless we refuse to stand back up. Because courage is not about winning every battle, but about refusing to surrender when the battle seems lost. Grinding means carrying the weight of setbacks, using them as fuel instead of excuses, and recognizing that every scar is proof that you dared to step into the ring, that you valued your dream enough to fight for it even when it didn't come easily, and those scars, those failures, become your armor because they remind you that you have endured, that you have already survived difficulty, and that you can do it again. In this way, failure becomes less of a wound and more of a badge, not something to hide but something to honor, because it tells the world you are not afraid to live fully, to take risks, to put yourself on the line for something that matters, and the grind is nothing without those risks, because comfort never builds greatness and safety never shapes courage. So when setbacks come, instead of seeing them as proof that you don't belong, see them as confirmation that you are in the arena, that you are brave enough to face the blows, and that every time you rise after falling, you are becoming stronger, wiser, and more relentless, because grinding is not about never falling, it is about building the kind of spirit that refuses to stay down, the kind of heart that grows fiercer with every setback, and the kind of resilience that transforms failure from an ending into the very fire that forges who you are meant to become. Resilience is practiced, not inherited, because it is not some rare gift reserved for a chosen few, but a quality that is forged in the ordinary, difficult, often unglamorous work of showing up day after day. And grinding daily is exactly that training ground where your mind and heart learn how to endure, how to bend without breaking, and how to rise even when everything in you feels heavy and tired. For resilience doesn't arrive in a single moment of inspiration, but is built slowly, like muscle, through repetition and struggle, through mornings when you would rather give up but don't, through nights when you feel like your efforts are invisible but still choose to keep moving, and each time you do, you are strengthening the part of yourself that believes in possibility even when reality looks bleak. Resilience is not a shield against pain or failure, but a commitment to face them and continue, and this practice of grinding, of putting in the effort again and again, creates in you a quiet confidence that you can weather storms, that you can carry burdens, that you can trust yourself not to run when life gets hard, and over time, those daily acts of persistence create a foundation so strong that setbacks, while still painful, no longer have the power to destroy you, because you have trained yourself to endure them, to learn from them, and to rise through them. Resilience grows not in moments of ease, but in the friction of resistance, in the discipline of pushing when there's no immediate reward, and in the choice to keep showing up for yourself and for your goals even when the path feels endless. Because each repetition of effort teaches you to rely not on luck or talent, but on your own capacity to persevere. The grind, though it may feel monotonous or exhausting, is in fact the daily practice of resilience, conditioning your heart to hope, your mind to focus, and your body to act even when motivation fades. And it is in that conditioning that you discover resilience is not something you are born with, but something you earn through consistency, courage, and grit, because every single day you choose to rise, to step forward, to take action, you are proving to yourself that you are stronger than you once believed, and that strength becomes the unshakable force that allows you not just to survive difficulties, but to thrive through them. The grind honors your future self because every choice you make today, every ounce of effort you give when it feels easier to quit, every difficult step you take despite the discomfort, is an investment in the person you are becoming. And though the work of grinding can feel relentless, repetitive, and exhausting in the moment, it is quietly shaping a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more capable than the one standing here now. Because growth does not happen in a single leap, but through the accumulation of countless small acts of persistence. And each act is like placing a brick in the foundation of your future, a foundation that will one day carry dreams that once felt impossible. It is easy to underestimate the power of daily discipline, to forget that the sweat, the tears, the frustrations of today are not wasted, but are planting seeds that will bloom later. But when you choose to grind, you are saying yes not to who you are in this moment, but to who you want to be. And that yes is a gift to your future self, who will stand taller because of the sacrifices you made, who will carry strength because of the struggles you endured, who will walk in opportunities because of the doors you kept knocking on, and who will look back with gratitude that you had the courage to keep going when it would have been easier to stop. The grind demands that you honor a vision beyond your current reality, that you work not only for today's comfort, but for tomorrow's growth, and that you recognize every hard step as a step that makes the road ahead a little smoother, because the person you are becoming is counting on you to endure the challenges of today so they can stand in the possibilities of tomorrow. And while the grind often feels thankless, invisible or unrewarded, it is never wasted, because nothing you give in the pursuit of growth is lost. It is stored within you as resilience, as discipline, as character, and it is these qualities that your future self will lean on when new battles arise, for the grind is not only about achieving goals, but about preparing you to carry them when they arrive, shaping you into someone who is not just capable of receiving success, but of sustaining it. And every difficult step you take today is like sending a message forward in time, telling your future self, I had your back, I believed in you, I was willing to pay the price so you could stand in strength. And when that future arrives, you will realize that the grind was never punishment, but a gift, a long, steady act of love for the person you were destined to become.